Everybody loves somebody sometime. Oh, boy! I feel good tonight. Oh, they gotta put something on that thing. I was going up it. Early this morning, I got up with the birds. That's 'cause I slept in a tree. And I'll tell you something, my house is a madhouse in the morning. Yeah, right at the 7 o'clock every morning, all my kids run into my bedroom and jump up on my bed and make bets at what time I'll get home. I gotta tell you, these are good jokes. I gotta tell you about the beautiful new dressing room NBC gave me for this season. It's all electric toothbrush, whirlpool bath, vibrating couch, vibrating pillows. I walk in sober, it looks like the room is drunk. Well, that's tough coming down there. Oh, you'd love my new dressing room. It's even got a window with a beautiful view of green fields. Green Fields Delicatessen. It's right across the street. Now, don't you go away. There's a nice fellow to tell you who my guests are tonight.
The Dean Martin Show, starring Rosemary Clooney, Buddy Hackett, Minnie Pearl, David Steinberg, and Les Brown and his band of renown.
Every night I sit here by my window, staring at the lonely avenue, watching lovers holding hands and laughing, thinking about the things we used to do. I like a walk in the park, I like a kiss in the dark, I like a sailboat ride. What about tonight we cried? Things like a lover's vow, things that we don't do now, thinking about the things we used to do. Memories are all I have to cling to, and the heartaches are the friends I'm talking to. But I'm not thinking about how much I love you. What I'm thinking about the things we used to do. I like a walk in the park, a kiss in the dark, I like a sailboat ride. Oh, the night that we cried. Things like a lover's vow, things that we don't do now, thinking about the things we used to do. I still can hear the jukebox softly playing, and the face I see each day belongs to you. Well, there's not a single sound, and there's nobody else around. We're just thinking about the things we used to do. Like a walk in the park, like a kiss in the dark, like a sailboat ride. What about the night that we cried? Things like a lover's vow, things that we don't do now, thinking about the things we used to do. Heartaches are the friends I'm talking to, thinking about the things we used to do. Staring at the lonely avenue. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Thank you, baby. Oh, I thought it was hard. Oh, this kid's got a great voice. Oh, he sings so beautiful. He must have sprayed his voice with a rainbow. You know, I'm lucky to be here tonight. I didn't think I'd make it. Just before the show, I slipped on a piece of ice. How I got my foot in that glass, I'll never know. Oh, we got a great show for you tonight. Rosemary Clooney is here. I love Rosemary because she hails from my kind of country, Yeah, she was born in Kentucky, and that's really my kind of country. Sunshine all day and moonshine all night. And a new young comedian, David Steinberg, and Mr. Buddy Hackett. I gotta tell you, Buddy's such a funny guy. Everybody loves him. Like today, he flew in from New York, and the stewardess liked him so much, she'd had him off the plane before anybody else. Over Phoenix. He was one that claims this. You all know that song Phil Harris is always singing about the hominy, grits, chitlins, and corn-fed fried potatoes. Huh? And that's what I like about the South? Well, I don't like to disagree with Phil, but here's what I like about the South. This is what I like about it. My first guest tonight, Miss Minnie Pearl.
Glad to see you.
Oh, don't you look so nice, boy?
Oh, thank you.
It's all right.
Dean Martin, in person. Oh, it's a thrill. You look just like I always imagined you would. Huh? Just like your records. So groovy.
I hope you don't mind me dropping in like this.
Oh, no, you're just in time.
Oh, I am?
Yes, you see, at the moment, I happen to be between fellers.
Oh, Miss Minnie, I can't believe that. A pretty lady like you.
Well, I know it's hard to believe. As a matter of fact, just last night, I got kissed by a feller.
Well, I'm not surprised.
He was. We was on a buggy ride, and he started to tell the horse to get up, and he went like this. And I got in the way.
Well, that's real romantic.
And then later on, he almost proposed to me.
Well, I don't blame him.
He started out by saying, I look like a breath of spring.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, he didn't use them words. He said I look like the end of a hard winter.
Yeah. Hey, Miss Minnie, I hope you won't think I'm too forward, but what does a fella and a girl do for a date around here?
Oh, well, let me show you. You just come right here, and you just sit right there, and... If it wasn't so late, we could go over to the Tinkles and count the freckles on little Lizzie's face.
Well, once you've seen one, you've seen them all.
That's what I was thinking. But I got an idea that maybe we could just stay right here, and I'll show you my stereopticon.
Well, you're in front of all these people. You don't show
Here. Right here.
Oh.
Now, you look right here, through there.
Yeah.
And now, these are some of the pictures that I took.
Oh, my, that's a fine-looking family.
Oh, yes, that's the Orson Tugwells. She's had so many young'uns, she's run out of names to call her husband.
Hey, what are this?
Oh, right. That are the picture of the brand new grinder switch fire engine. Yeah? They call it Minnie after me because it's always ready and never called for.
You know, it's always a kick. That could give you a headache. It's always a kick to be able to introduce a bright, new, young comedian. And we've got one with us tonight you're going to love. Yeah, and he's going to show us what could happen if they keep on making those how-to records. What? How-to records? What? How-to records. You put me on? How-to records? Okay, all right, there's that. You know, like how to speak French and how to dance, and, well, he just bought a new one, and it's called How to Win a Friend. Ladies and gentlemen, wonderful David Steinberg.
Hi there.
Hi.
So you want to win a friend?
Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do.
Well, what seems to be the trouble?
Oh, no trouble. No friends.
Oh, we can soon fix that.
Terrific.
What's your name?
Tom.
That's an unusual sounding name.
A lot of people tell me that.
My name is Jane Watkins.
Oh, well, how do you do, Miss Watkins? It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
You can call me Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Where do you work?
Oh, I'm a checkout boy at the supermarket. I really hate it there.
That sounds like a wonderful job.
No, I say, I hate it there pretty much.
You must really like it there.
No! I think I still pretty much hate it there, Jane.
Lots of room for advancement.
What's that?
You know, there's someone down at work who has their eye on you, and you don't even know it.
Who? Who?
Do you know any good jokes?
No, no, I'm not a joke teller, if you know what I mean.
I bet you tell a really great joke.
No, Jane. What I was just saying is I'm not a joke teller per se. Herman down the next counter tells the joke. There's nothing that you could do that'll get me to tell you a joke.
Yeah?
Okay, here's one. Here are these morons.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, morons walking down the street. You know, no, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anyway, no, it's not the street. They're walking down the sidewalk. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anyway, say 3 morons. 3 or 4 morons. I'm not 4 morons.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anyway, oh, this is terrific. You're going to love this. One moron turns to the other moron and says...
Oh, that's a wonderful joke.
I didn't finish it.
You know, it's not so much the joke, but the way you tell it.
Well, I'll have to tell all my jokes without the endings.
Remember the good old days when we were kids?
Oh, the good do I? Can't be a kid again, can you, Jane? That's one thing. You can't go back. That's strange.
Sitting on the front porch.
Yeah, we had a front porch? Hey, what a coincidence. Oh, I used to play baseball with my kid brother. You would have loved him.
I remember her. Remember the songs we used to sing?
Yeah, I remember them, but I'm not a singer, per se.
Do you remember on Moonlight Bay?
Yeah, I remember it, but I'm not gonna sing it.
Let's sing it.
I knew you were gonna ask me.
We were sailing along on Moonlight Bay. I can't hear you.
I'm not singing.
We could hear the voices ringing. They seemed to say,
Hey.
That's it. You have stolen my heart. Now don't go away. As we sang love's old sweet songs on Moonlight Bay.
On Moonlight Bay.
Now let me hear the harmony. On Moonlight Bay.
Hey, I'm glad you made me do that. You know, it warms you up. It really makes you feel terrific to sing a song like that. You know?
Wasn't that fun?
Fun. Fun is the word I was looking for.
Isn't it nice to know you can trust someone?
Oh, you bet. That's so important, you know. Do you trust me?
Sure I do.
Oh, terrific.
And do you want to know something else?
Yeah, what?
Come closer. Closer. That's it. I want you to know you've just made your very first friend.
Oh, great. Hey, and you've made a friend, too, after all. Yeah, I'll be a friend of yours. That's exactly what I wanted. That's fantastic.
And you want to know something else?
Yeah, what?
Come closer.
What?
Closer. I want you to know that I'm going to be your friend till the end.
Great, Jane, and I'll be your friend, too. We can go to the
movies together.
end.
That's exactly what I wanted.
The end. The end. The end. The end. The end. The end.
Here's the best buddy a laugh ever had, Mr. Buddy Hackett. Ladies and gentlemen, Buddy Hackett.
Hey, Dean.
Yeah.
Tis I.
Tis I.
Tis I.
What's it, tis I?
That's from legitimate theater. Tis I.
Legitimate theater?
Yeah. Before I was in legitimate theater, if you say Buddy Hackett, I would say, yeah, that's me. But now, with the training of legitimate theater, with the aplomb, with the niceties therein, I give a little half bow. Tis I.
Well, why don't you give a full bow?
Because I'll blow the pants.
Oh.
I not only have legitimate theater, but I got a full season there, you know.
Yeah, let's sit down.
Okay.
Huh? And I just want to speak to you a while, you know.
Okay, we might as well speak about something because the only thing we rehearsed is sitting down.
Well, let's
You know,
chit-chat about anything you want
All
to.
right, I'm going to tell you what happened. About something. Do you know, was you ever in a play?
No, I've never been in the play.
Let me tell you a few stories about plays, all right? You want to know the first job I had on a play?
Hmm?
I had a part, and it was a Civil War story. And I'm supposed to say, I walk in, and I salute the general there, and I say, sir, and then there's a noise of a cannon shot. And I say, hark, I hear the cannons roar, which is not my type of, that's not my, in my old neighborhood, you yell hark, they hit you in the head with a bottle. You know? I wasn't raised in Sherwood Forest. Hark, tra-la, tis Robin. So I got to do, like, hark, I hear the cannons roar. So now, we had one of these stage managers. I don't know if you ever meet them. In legitimate theater, they got kind of people, you're not too sure about them, you know? There's a lot of rumors around that they're not regular. But we had a stage manager. When I used to say this, sir, then he used to simulate the noise of the cannon. And he would go like this, sound of the cannon shot. And then I would say, hark, I hear the cannons roar, see? So now we rehearse 3.5 weeks, and every day we rehearse it 5 times a day, and I keep hearing him going, sound of the cannon shot, see? Now, opening night, the Schubert Theater in New Haven, right?
Right.
They had a real cannon shot, but I never heard it. All I heard was sound of the cannon. Now I walk out and I say, sir, and all of a sudden, boom! I said, what the heck was that? And I fainted it. Now, that's a legit story. Now,
You missed the hark?
yeah, well, I didn't hear it. I thought I was really going to hear sound of the cannon. Sound of the cannon was busy backstage painting a goat or something. Now, one time, there was this, you ever see a movie, Desperate Hours?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a play on Broadway first, Desperate Hours. So there's a scene where a couple of gangsters take over a family, and they hold them cowed, and they got them, they're in their house with guns and all. So they open in Chicago, this company of Desperate Hours. And the first scene, the curtain goes up, it's about 3 minutes old, and you see the gangsters in these people's house, and the guy fires the pistol, boom, and he's not supposed to. So, the dumb actors, instead of saying, oh, you nearly hit us, the father goes, ah, and he falls. Now, he's supposed to die in the third act. Now, the show is 3 minutes old, so the guy who fired the shot, fast thinking, he ad-libs, maybe it's only a flesh wound. So now the other gangster runs over to him and grabs him and he says, no, he's dead. They had to bring down a curtain, and someone came out and made an announcement that there was a mistake and they'll start over, which I don't know how good a night of theater that was, but anything like that ever happened with you?
No, I've never been in a legit theater. I'm lucky I got here. Theater, I don't know anything about theaters.
No?
No, I go to them once in a while.
Yeah. You know, one time, I'm talking about guns, it reminds me. I was a kid, I was in a pool room. You shoot pool?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The pool rooms I'll talk about, but theaters, no.
So I was about 13, 14 years old. I was in a pool room, and it got held up. And these gangsters come out, you know, and everybody hold up. So everyone hold up. I was about 13, 14. All the other guys were about 18, 20. They frisk them. Anyone didn't have any money, wham, they give them a shot in the face, you know. So I was scared they're going to shake me down. I didn't have a dime, you know. I was a starving kid, you know, runny nose and all like that. I think whenever you starve, your nose runs. So well, I don't know, but that was in my neighborhood. It looked stupid. If you had enough to eat, you suddenly could have a Kleenex. So, anyway, I was in this, in the pool room, and they're holding up, and after they collect from everybody, they say, now we're going to get out of here. They're going to take a hostage. So I was about the youngest. So they say, you, come with us. At which point, my mind moved faster than it's ever moved since. I said, oh, boy, can I drive? They said, you stay. You come. You know, and I started to get different kind of jobs after that. You know,
What are the odd jobs that you did have?
Well, I worked in a pocketbook factory, turning handles. That was hard. You know, they have handles on women's purses when they... You don't know too much about women's purses, you know? But hark! He knows a lot about that. Anyway, you know, I heard stories about you in a gambling house years ago, that you worked in a gambling house.
Yeah, 11 years. I was a croupier.
What does that mean? You cough a lot, huh?
What? No, that's the croup. Croupier, I mean a dealer. I used to deal blackjack, and that's, Why? What about gambling? You know what them?
Well, I play Las Vegas, same as you do, you know.
Yeah.
You play the same.
I never see you gamble too much, though, except on a crap table.
No, I don't play in the crap table. I once in a while, I play the roulette. There's a wheel spins in a circle with a lot of numbers. 1 to 36, 0, 00, some are red, some are black, some are odd, some are even. You can play red, black, odd, even, or a specific number. The wheel goes one way, the ball goes the other, correct?
Correct.
And if the ball falls in the number that you bet on, they change the wheel. So I play red, it comes black, you know? And I play black and it comes red. So I like to play, but I don't like to lose. So I play red and black, and the guy hit me with the right in the face. That's the croupier, right?
Yeah.
Give me a little rap in the lips, and I did the coffee. And a lot of little white balls came out. It don't take 2 after meals or something. You know what kind of job I had once when I was a kid?
You had a lot of jobs, I know that.
Yeah, I couldn't hold on to none. I worked in a window shade company.
Window shade? What's that?
The Burlon window shade. They made window shades.
Oh, things that go...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drove a truck, and they used to stop the truck and put in window shades. But then I found out there's one job driving paid the most.
What's that?
I don't know if you should talk about it, but it was driving a hearse.
That's it's not a dead thing.
It better be, or else you're in trouble driving.
Did you drive a hearse?
Well, first I was an apprentice hearse driver. You don't start right off. They don't trust you right away. I don't know why they don't trust you with a full load. You can't hurt nothing. But they have peculiar rules, like you're not allowed to whistle, and, you know, and, I mean, you could whistle if you want, but nothing happy, no happy tunes, you know. You got da-da-da-da-dum-dum-dum-dum. They don't like none of that. And no knocking on wood. And you're going to go like this, knock on wood. You don't do that because they're afraid if there's ever an answer, like, who there? There are going to be 2 guys run out and leave an expensive hearse standing there. I didn't have that job too long. The first day I went out, you know, my first job, you know, real thing. And I was driving, and I start thinking, boy, isn't it nice that here I am, and I have a job, and I'm start thinking, you know, and I'm thinking, and I didn't whistle, and I'm just thinking, and I didn't pay attention, and the next thing I know, there was no procession behind me. I must have, you know, I didn't mean to leave them. Somewhere, you know, I didn't wait for them at a crossing or something. I don't know. But it sure is embarrassing when you're driving a hearse and there's no one behind you, you know, and you don't got the address. You see that is... You know what's happening? And other drivers come the other way yelling, hey, your lights are on. You get it. I think that's a good time I parked and went into a bar. You know, and the guy looked at me and says, hey, the way you're dressed, what, are you going to a funeral? I said, I wish I was. I did something wrong. Well, then I got back in the hearse and I said, anybody here don't want to go to the ball game? You know something? I would have been in some trouble, but luckily I picked up another procession. And I just got in line back of them, see? There was a procession where they were driving along, and a guy standing on the sidewalk, he said, who died? And someone answered him, I believe is the gentleman in the first car. But in this case, it was also in the last car. It was the first funeral with a hearse in the front and a hearse in the back. And I think I would have got in trouble. I would have not gotten in so much trouble if I didn't say one thing I said at the cemetery.
What did you say?
I asked them if there would be not too much trouble to go down another foot. And that's when they go, get out of here. And then I went back to the undertaking establishment, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, do they get mad when you don't complete a delivery? Oh. I think that's how I lost the job, because I can't imagine anything else bad that I might have.
I cried for you. Now it's your turn to cry over me.
I cried for you, huh? Listen carefully. The sound belongs to one of those rare singers whose voice you always recognize the moment she starts to sing. Then you start nudging the person next to you and saying, hey, that's Rosemary Clooney, and you're right, of course. Now save your applause until she finishes. So, go ahead, Rosie.
Every single solitary road has a turning. That's one thing I'm learning. Well, I cried, baby, for you. What a fool I used to be. Now I found two eyes, just a little bit bluer. I found a heart, just a little bit truer. Well, I cried, baby, for you. Now it's your turn to cry over me. Sorry now. Who's sorry now? I tried to warn you somehow. You had your way, and now there's gonna be the devil to pay, and I'm glad that you're sorry now.
Keep all them cards and letters coming in, folks. Old Jeannie and I would sure love to hear from you. And just to show you how much we appreciate all the nice things you've been writing to us, this afternoon I reached into the mailbag and I drew up this letter that I got right here. And I asked the NBC operator to place a call to the nice lady who wrote it. See?
Your call is ready, Mr. Martin.
Is that a faculty?
Hello?
Oh, hi, this is Dean Martin.
Are you the guy supposed to come over and fix the roof?
No, this is Dean Martin from television.
Oh, the set works good now. We took the bird's nest off the antenna.
Is Mrs. Henshaw home?
No, she's over next door at Martha's, the can and rhubarb. Hey, who is this?
This is Dean Martin.
Who?
Dean Martin from Hollywood.
Come on, stop kidding around, Harold. I know this is you. Listen, I can't talk to you now. My disposal just backed up.
Oh, this is really Dean Martin, and your wife just won a trip to Hollywood.
That's nice, but the missus can't travel. She's got a condition. Hey, listen, I know it's you, Harold. Stop kidding around.
No, pal, I'm really Dean Martin. I'll prove it to you. Just listen. Everybody loves somebody sometime. Hey, yeah, I'll be looking for all you right here next week. In the meantime, you take care of yourselves and your family, and remember, everybody loves somebody sometime. Everybody falls in love somehow. Yes, sir. Get married.